Well, welcome everyone, and I hope you're all having a good afternoon. And thank you for joining us for this historic event. Hopefully, we'll see a successful launch of the Starliner. This is its third attempt in the last month. Hopefully, we're going to get all the way through this and get this crew into space once and for all. We need this to be successful for several reasons. The launch is scheduled for 3:52 this afternoon, so we're a little bit early. So what we'll be doing is just for now, we'll be popping off, and what I will do is I'll leave you with the live NASA link, so you can follow along and watch as things progress, and hopefully. Everything will go smoothly. There'll be no glitches on the ground control, no glitches on the Atlas V or the Centaur, and especially no glitches with the Starliner. This crew has been strapped into this capsule. This is the third time. They must be getting a little bit frustrated, and I think they're just eager to go, and we're all eager to see them actually go as well. This is very, very important. We definitely need the Starliner, but with all I mean, it's been jinxed from the get-go. But we'll talk about that a bit later on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you now. I will put the stream up, and then you'll be able to watch it. Well, and we'll be back at 3:30, where we'll have a bigger chat, and we'll just basically go through what's actually happening and hopefully how things are going. So we'll see you later. See you at 3:30. I'll be popping backwards and forwards just to remind people we are still here. We do exist. I did notice we had a start time of 2 o'clock this afternoon, but that was an error on our part, and we will be starting at 3:30, which will give us about half hour before the actual flight lifts off. So anyway, enjoy the actual coverage, the NASA coverage, and then we'll be back at 3:30. So bear with us, and we'll see you very, very soon.
Just get an update that the helium leak on Starliner remains good. We have confirmation it is still acceptable for flight, looking about like it did on Saturday. So that's great news. And Dylan, Atlas has been really all over the solar system, but preps for today's launch are just a little bit different.
Go ahead.
Line item 390 has been disabled.
Roger.
Well, that's right, Lauren. So we're using our standard processes and procedures that we use for every Atlas Centaur mission. But today's mission is different because we have Starliner atop Atlas and Centaur, and two astronauts inside Starliner. So there are some added steps.
LC, this is FTS.
Go ahead.
Yes, Operation 55, Step 270, FTS open loop test is complete.
Roger.
So we do have added steps to support those additional activities to ingress the crew and then close out the Starliner and then prepare the crew access tower for launch. But right now, today, we're remaining in our final built-in hold as we continue to prepare for liftoff. There are a few activities left for us today. The blue team will be clearing the area soon, at which point the final preparations for launch will get underway, and we'll be configuring the vehicle's propulsion and hydraulic systems for flight. The avionics team will be loading upper-level wind data into our flight computer that allows us steering through the atmosphere. And you'll also start to hear final comm checks between the LCC, Mission Control in Houston, the BMCC at Kennedy Space Center, and the Starliner crew. Once all that is done, we'll be retracting that big crew access arm. That'll be one of the big visual cues on the launch pad that lets us know that we're getting closer to launch. And then you'll start to hear us get into our final polling for launch.
All right, Megan, we are now just under an hour to launch, so we will see you guys back here in just a little bit. Actually, we're going to go over to NASA's Daryl Nell at Hangar AE. Daryl.
All right, thank you very much. And looking here into Hangar AE, and you can see here the CCP team, Commercial Crew Program, is back here monitoring everything that's been going on. And so far, it's been a beautiful countdown. Let's talk a little bit about weather. You can see around the pad, there's been some cumulus clouds that have popped up in and around the area, and that's because some sea breeze has come ashore, and there you see it. Sea breeze, of course, activating with some of the warm air over the land. Launch Weather Officer Melody Lovin says, though, no problem and no issue. Oh, there's a big cumulus cloud right next to the pad. She believes that these are going to be able to pass over by the time we hit T0, so not looking to have much of a problem there. And she just briefed us that we're still go. 90% go is currently where we're standing at. Again, beautiful weather outside. You see the one concern there, the cumulus cloud rule. And so they will be keeping their eyes on that. We did have some showers offshore. Those, though, dispersed, and that's not a problem. We do have some weather. We're also watching along the ascent corridor. We're keeping track of that.
LC Slick on Channel 1.
Go ahead, Slick.
CST 100 pad operations are complete and ready to configure the white room for launch. Annulus purge was disconnected at 13:54 Zulu.
Roger. Blue team lead, LC.
Go ahead.
Perform toxic vapor and O2 checks when raising the environmental seal and configure white room for launch.
Roger.
Getting that room right there ready to launch. You'll see that environmental seal around the Starliner and get ready to go up as they get that room ready for launch, and eventually at L-11 minutes retract the arm away. All right, again, the ascent corridor weather, though, it is low for any issues. So all across the board, we still look good for weather. There's a look at the satellite loop, and you can see all across the eastern seaboard, all the way up into the maritime provinces of Canada. Fortunately, we got a high-pressure system off North Carolina that's keeping everything pretty stable and clear out there. Just a couple of issues along the way, but nothing that would put the Starliner at risk of splashing down all along that track if they needed to, should something happen to the rocket. We're looking good so far from out here at Slick 41 and Hangar AE, and we'll send it back to the host desk.
Now let's take another look at the crew for this flight test. We see Commander Butch Wilmore. He was at the bottom left corner of your screen, NASA astronaut and retired U.S. Navy captain. Raised in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, married to Deanna Wilmore, and they have 2 daughters. As a naval pilot, Butch racked up more than 8,000 flight hours and 663 carrier landings, all in tactical jet aircraft. He completed 4 operational deployments supporting missions like Operation Desert Storm. Before his selection to NASA, Wilmore was on exchange to the Air Force as a flight test instructor at the Air Force Test Pilot School at Edwards Air Force Base in California. Butch is a veteran of 2 space flights as pilot on Space Shuttle Atlantis in 2009, and then 5 years later he served as flight engineer for Expedition 41. So far, Wilmore has spent 178 days in space and performed 4 spacewalks, so this flight will be his 3rd mission to the ISS.
And Sunny Williams, CFT's pilot and a retired U.S. Navy captain. NASA selected her as an astronaut in 1998, just 2 years before Butch. This will also be Sunny's 3rd mission to space, making her the first woman on a test flight of an orbital spacecraft. Her first trip to the ISS launched in 2006. She served as flight engineer for Expeditions 14-15. She then returned to the orbiting lab in 2012 and was commander of Expedition 33. Sunny has more than 50 hours of spacewalk time, the 2nd most cumulative time by a female astronaut. So far, she has spent 322 days in space. Before NASA, Sunny was a formal naval test pilot and instructor, logging more than 3,000 flight hours in more than 30 different aircraft. Williams grew up in Needham, Massachusetts, and is married to Michael Williams. She enjoys hanging out with their dogs, working out, hiking, and camping, as well as working on cars and houses. As the crew aboard Starliner prepares to launch to the space station, let's take a look at what's in store for Sunny and Butch while on this mission.
The mission of the Commercial Crew Program is to provide transportation for astronauts to the International Space Station.
Multiple providers provide you redundancy. Redundancy is important, as we know. In our systems, we have redundant systems.
But actually, more importantly, it's providing the aerospace workforce the opportunity to test out new ideas, new technologies, and work them into spacecraft. Butch and I are the first 2 to fly the Starliner, so this flight will be a crew flight test so there'll only be 2 on board. We're going to fly it up to the space station, dock it, and test it all out, and then come back home.
Everything's new. The procedures are new. We have procedures now that we didn't have a year ago because we've learned as the process has gone forward.
We've had 2 test flights uncrewed previously, but this will be the first time we're putting people on it.
We're test pilots, and so we're going to be testing the spacecraft in all aspects of the flight, from launch, on orbit, all the way to entry and landing.
We're testing out the environmental control system. We're testing out the manual flying of the spacecraft. Then while we're docked to the space station, we have a bunch of tasks to make sure that the spacecraft can act as a lifeboat. And just in case anything bad goes on the International Space Station, the crew on board can come to the Starliner and make sure that they're okay.
This has a mode where we call it backup mode, which is your get-home mode, if you will. We can, without any communication at all, we can still effect a return to Earth, do a deorbit burn, and hit the point where we're trying to land, even without our computers. You know, that old mantra, failure is not an option, because it's a very dynamic thing we do flying in space, and it's not very forgiving. And we know that, and that's why we have these multiple systems and multiple redundant capabilities, because human life is special, and we want to preserve it at all costs.
I think exploration is just in the human heart. Butch, he describes himself as the first thing he said as a kid was why. And I think that's in all of us. Maybe we don't verbalize it, but we all ask why. And that's what exploration is. It's that next step of why. So why not go back to the moon? Why not try to live on the moon? It seems like a natural stepping stone to the next thing, Mars, which just calls us. Like, why is that planet there? What is the future of that planet? What is the future of our planet? And to be able to take these next steps in exploration, we're going to start answering those questions.
We stand on the pinnacle. This is kind of where everything, integration, everything comes together, which is where Sunny and I sit. And this is just a part of the ongoing process of growing and expounding our knowledge and our understanding of all things for the benefit of mankind.
I am Sunny Williams, and I am ready to fly NASA's Boeing Crew Flight Test.
I'm Butch Wilmore, and I am ready to fly NASA's Boeing Crew Flight Test.
And we are ready here at 49 minutes, 17 seconds until liftoff. Now, this historic flight test will be a major milestone for United Launch Alliance. NASA's Antonio Jaramillo joins us now with ULA's CEO and president, who has more about this company's road to this moment.
Thank you, Megan. Joining me is Tori Bruno, CEO and President of United Launch Alliance. Tori, it's so great to have you back on here. Can you give us a quick recap, first on the issue that occurred during the last launch attempt and how teams resolved it and got us to where we are today?
Absolutely. So we have a ground system at the pad that controls the things that occur in the last few moments before we go to ignition. This particular system is the one that releases the rocket from the pad and controls what happens to getting the umbilicals loose. And we have a triple redundant system that is also able to vote, and we lost one card within one of those 3 chassis that do this. The crew was never in any kind of danger or anything like that, but in our timeline, had that failed much later, we would have relied on the double redundancy in voting that remained, but that early on, our criteria says stop and understand what's happening. We did resolve it the next day on a Sunday. It is a card within a chassis that has power supplies. It was one of the 2 power supplies that are also redundant, and so the flaw was really that power supply going down and not switching to the backup supply built into the chassis. So we removed it, we replaced it, we put the modules right back in it. The chassis we're using we know works because it's the same chassis we used to launch Vulcan on Cert 1. Everything has checked out and been retested, and now we're good to go.
That's great to hear, and it is a beautiful day right now. It looks like it's going to be a beautiful launch. What's the trajectory like for this launch? I mean, who along the U.S. will be able to see it?
Yeah, this is a very unique trajectory because it's flat and long for crew safety. And so it'll head out from here, it'll go north and a little bit to the east, and so all along the southern coast of the United States you have a pretty good chance of seeing it. And what that trajectory allows us to do is to have no blackout areas where the crew would be unable to abort the flight, God forbid, in the event of an anomaly. And it delivers them just short of being orbital, so if there were any issues with the capsule's propulsion system, they get a free return safely to the surface of the Earth. So very unique for us. We've never flown, apart from the test flights of this capsule, a trajectory that is suborbital before.
Wow, and talking about uniqueness, is there anything new or different on this Atlas V rocket for this crewed launch compared to other uncrewed Atlas V launches?
Yes, there are. There's a handful of things, and they are all safety related. So the most obvious thing is there's no payload fairing, because if there were to be an abort where we want the capsule to fly the crew safely away, the fairing would be in the way, so we fly without it. We also have an emergency detection system, which is like a very high-speed computer that is plugged into all the systems on Atlas and monitoring its health, so that if an anomaly started happening faster than any human could possibly do it, this computer would detect it and command the separation of the capsule. And of course, on Centaur, we have 2 RL-10s instead of 1 rocket engine for more thrust because of that long, flat trajectory. The last thing we do is actually kind of subtle and maybe a little bit trivial for most people, but we anodize the first stage of the booster to protect it from a thing called stress corrosion cracking. And just to be extra careful for the crew, we actually double the thickness of that anodization.
Wow, that is fascinating. Tori, thank you so much for joining us here today. Megan, D, Mike, back over to you.
And as we check out some pad team members there getting ready to leave the crew access tower, teams inside mission control at Johnson Space Center in Houston are also keeping a close eye on launch. Here's NASA's Brandy Dean and Boeing's Jim May.
Thanks so much, Megan. Welcome back to Mission Control Houston at NASA's Johnson Space Center. We are now 44 minutes away from launch and everything continuing to go pretty smoothly. Team here is under leadership again of Flight Director Mike Lammers today. Once Starliner gets off the pad, Jim and I will be with you through the ascent, giving you the play-by-play as Starliner makes its way into orbit and expanding on the calls that you'll hear from Capcom Joshua Kutrick, making to Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams.
There are a number of major milestones you'll want to keep an eye out for during Starliner's climb to orbit. The first you'll hear from Starliner's crew is roll program coming from Commander Wilmore, indicating that Starliner is rolling into the planned orientation for ascent and orbit ops. Then about 45 seconds into flight, the crew and
Well, welcome again, everyone, to this Space Oddities coverage of hopefully a successful Starliner launch. We all need this to work. As I said earlier, we will be starting a live commentary at 3:30. We're not far away, to be quite honest. We're within 42, just over 43 minutes for launch. So all looking forward to it. Excitement's building. Let's just hope that everything goes well this time. And I'd just like to say hello to Gerard, John, Sandra, and who else is in there? And Alan. Well, thank you for joining us today. And let's all have our fingers crossed. And we'll see you at 3:30. I will be popping in and out until then, just to keep you updated. So enjoy the coverage, and we'll speak to you soon.
last major milestone before crew begins what we call orbit ops is the orbital insertion, or OI burn, which will move Starliner into slightly elliptical orbit as opposed to the more slightly suborbital trajectory that it starts off in after separating from the Centaur. From there, Starliner will be on its way to the International Space Station.
And speaking of the space station, let's check in with Rob Navius and the International Space Station Flight Control Team. Rob?
Go ahead.
Thanks, Brandy. Back here in the International Space Station Flight Control Room, flight controllers are keeping tabs on the countdown and monitoring the work on board by the Expedition 71 crew in advance of Starliner's scheduled arrival tomorrow. After docking, NASA astronauts Matt Dominic, Mike Barrett, Jeanette Epps, and Tracy Dyson along with Station Commander Oleg Kononenko of Roscosmos and fellow cosmonauts Nikolai Chub and Alexander Grabenkin, will be ready to roll out the red carpet as Wilmore and Williams float through the hatch into the Harmony module. Now, the dock timeline is designed to be variable. That means that the number of days Starliner could stay at the station could be adjusted depending on any further launch delays or undocking delays caused by weather conditions at the western U.S. landing sites for Starliner. One of the most important dock days for the Starliner crew will come 2 days prior to their scheduled undocking, when they load the last of the cargo items to be returned to Earth in the vehicle and conduct onboard manual piloting proficiency. That will enable them to stay sharp for their departure from the station and the deorbit and entry events that will follow. We're now 41 minutes, 9 seconds away from liftoff. Today, the operational loops are so far, thankfully, quiet. And with that, we'll go back to our folks at the Cape.
As we prepare in less than an hour to launch 2 astronauts to space, during this test flight, let's check back in with NASA's Antonia Jaramillo, who's with NASA's Associate Administrator, about the mission.
Thank you, Dee. Joining me is Jim Free, NASA's Associate Administrator. Jim, thank you so much for joining us. Can you discuss a little bit why it's important for the space agency that we have another American spacecraft launching to space from American soil?
Well, I mean, it is truly historic day that we have today. It is the 6th time we've launched a new vehicle to space, and this time with the first female on one of those missions in Sunny, and from the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, not the Air Force Station any longer. And we're also, now it gives us that chance to get back to ISS with another crew. And the learning that we're doing there about the human body, about technology, about science, of course science is key to all we do. And then to prepare ourselves for those missions to the moon and then on to Mars.
Absolutely. A lot of firsts, a lot of important things for sure happening on this mission. You talked briefly on this. Can you discuss again why it's important just in general that we have multiple spacecraft available to send humans to space?
We need that access. So right now we have one provider giving us that access to space station. This will give us a second provider, which means if we have a problem with either, we have ways to get our crews to and from station, which helps keep the tempo that we've had for 23 years of having humans in low Earth orbit, but also that opportunity to get the crews back if there's an issue at all, and keep that presence going.
Absolutely. This has already been a very exciting year for the agency, with many, many fascinating missions already taking place. Now with this historic launch about to take off, what else can the public look forward to?
It has been a great year, and certainly a lot of learning already for me about the incredible mission that we have at NASA. And the missions that we have remaining this year, I'll just highlight a couple of them. Europa Clipper, which will be an incredible mission for us to watch in its journey and understanding even more about the solar system. NISAR, which will help continue our learning of Earth. And then we have X-59, that first A in NASA, right, the aeronautics, which will go through its first flight this year. We're about to do an engine run-up on that aircraft. And of course, heading towards Artemis 2 next year. The crews in Washington this week planted a moon tree just yesterday with our deputy administrator, and that gets us on our path back to the moon.
Absolutely, and we cannot wait for all of those missions. Jim, thank you so much for joining us here today. Megan, D, Mike, back over to you.
Thank you both. And we are now 38 minutes until liftoff of NASA's Boeing crew flight test with Butch Wilmore and Sunny Williams. You can see they're inside the Starliner spacecraft, patiently, maybe, awaiting liftoff, right, Mike?
Oh, they're very patient at this point, and so far so good today. It's been a very smooth count, as Rob Navius mentioned earlier.
And so the plan is for Butch and Sunny to be docked. That was a call out saying that the pad team has cleared the pad. Now the plan is for Butch and Sunny to be docked to the ISS for at least 8 days, and then after, they will return to Earth with a soft touchdown in the American Southwest. That's video and sound from inside Starliner during its return to Earth 2 years ago as part of the Orbital Flight Test 2 mission. Its heat shield will reach 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit during re-entry. Parachutes then deploy, and the heat shield is discarded to expose Starliner's airbags. The original test pilot you see on the bottom center of your screen, Rosie the Rocketeer, collecting data of what astronauts might experience during landing. Starliner is the first and only American orbital crew capsule to land on land. This allows for quicker access to crew and cargo. It also makes turning the spacecraft around for future missions quicker. But Mike, Starliner can also land in water in the case of an emergency.
Absolutely. Starliner has a lot of heritage and commonality with the Orion spacecraft, which lands on water. Starliner is a little bit smaller and a little bit lighter, so it can actually land on land. It has those airbags, as we saw. I can't wait to try them out. That's the first thing I'm going to ask Butch and Sunny about. How are the airbags? Because Soyuz is a little bit hard landing, but everybody's fine. But it's really those airbags, I think, are going to make a difference. But landing on water, we have a different airbag configuration, and so we have a fifth airbag that opens up in the middle, and so it's definitely planned that we could land on water, but we save that only for emergencies because refurbishing the capsule afterwards is going to be kind of tough with all the saltwater contamination. So we'd really like to land on land. We have 5 spots in the southwest of the United States that we can land on.
And I remember Sunny saying that she would much rather land on land because she said she had a lot of anxiety with landing in the water, even after you're back on Earth, because it's such a long rescue process and you're bobbing in the ocean. You know, she said when you land on land, it's done, you're safe.
See, that's the Air Force perspective. That's how we always think of things too. The Navy guys, you know, they should like the water, but no, this is jokes aside. That's exactly it. It's a lot easier to find us and a lot more options if and when we land on land.
All right, so we're coming up on 35 minutes until liftoff.
And here comes a comm check.
Yeah, I want to set the stage now for a series of comm checks.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Op 60, step 10, step 20. Blast danger area is clear.
Roger.
So yeah, we expect to hear repeated communication checks with Capcom in Houston and the crew. This is an opportunity for them to also discuss any anomalies or resolutions to those anomalies, but we've been saying no issues, working no issues, the team today, so that's great news. And then these comm checks that we'll hear now, we're going to periodically hear them throughout these final 34 minutes. And again, communication is so important, and we want to make sure that those channels are working properly from the crew to everybody else on the ground that's helping to monitor launch. And where we are now, again, the pad team has cleared the pad.
So it's just Butch, Sunny, a Starliner, and Atlas and Centaur all together.
Right. Yep. The first 2 astronauts to fly in Starliner.
Go ahead. Yes, sir. I can also give you step 60. Flight hazard area has been cleared of all personnel accounted for.
Roger.
Butch and Sunny, the first 2 astronauts to fly in Starliner. Sunny will be the first woman to test an orbital spacecraft. And the last time people flew to space in an Atlas-class rocket was nearly 61 years ago. CFT is going to be that final test to certify a second commercial spacecraft to ferry astronauts to and from the space station. And this is a cool fact too, actually. Once in orbit, for the first time in NASA history, the agency will have 3 different crew spacecraft orbiting in space simultaneously. So that's, of course, the International Space Station, the SpaceX Crew Dragon, and then Boeing Starliner spacecraft. What an incredible milestone.
That is an incredible milestone, and NASA's going to break that again, hopefully soon, when we have another spacecraft. We're working here at the Kennedy Space Center to get Artemis and the Orion spacecraft up into space, too. So these are exciting times, and we're building a future where there's even more spacecraft in the future with humans on board going to space. And that's more opportunity for future astronauts.
Yeah, Dee, what do you think about that? Again, Boeing, Boeing Starliner joining as one of the 3 crewed spacecraft that's in orbit.
Yeah, exactly. I echo exactly what Mike said, that this is all about expanding human spaceflight. So having another vehicle, once this is certified, is going to do exactly that. It's going to get more people into space. Of course, this time to the International Space Station, it's going to increase science. But of course, there's also private missions. So, at the end of the day, it's going to be, it's always great when you can get more people, into space.
Yeah, and we've been asking you to submit your Ask NASA questions from social media, so let's answer some more of those now. We have this one from, love this name, Shaquille Oatmeal on Twitch asking, what's the life of an astronaut like between launches, Mike?
Yes, we spend all of our life, training and wanting to become an astronaut, and then once you're an astronaut, what's it like? And so we do a lot more training. But I'll say that the last time I flew in space, we just had our landing anniversary on June 1st of an STS-134,
Oh,
and
wow.
that was in 2011. That would have been a great day to launch, but we chose not to. But that's 13 years ago. So in the last 13 years, what have I been up to? And that's been helping get Dragon and Starliner up into space, helping my friends aboard the International Space Station as Capcom. I helped Sunny when she was doing spacewalks, and we help each other. It's all part of a big team. And so today it's great to see Butch and Sunny. They've both been waiting a long time to go fly again. Trying to get a third mission or a fourth mission is really, you have to wait and be patient. And Butch and Sunny are going to have they've been working hard on Starliner 2. And that's what we do between missions. We help get ready for the next missions and help our friends be ready and support them while they're in space.
Yeah, and the Commercial Crew Program is so important because in working with our commercial partners, it really allows NASA to pursue other things, like, again, returning to the moon. Our eyes are set on Mars with the Artemis program.
Indeed, and I'll just say I've enjoyed working both with SpaceX and really with Boeing. I mean, when we saw our teammates on the montage earlier, it just it made me tear up a little bit, and I'm not afraid to say that because there's a lot of respect with the team.
And let's take another question now. This one is from World Citizen on YouTube asking, does the crew on the space station watch the launch?
So right now it's the middle of
L minus 30 minutes.
30 minutes
RC,
to go.
conduct weather briefing on Channel 8 Weather Conference Net.
Roger.
Arm controls, start arm hydraulic final preps.
Roger.
LOX 1, perform pogo suppressor charge.
Roger.
Prop 1, perform RD-180 transducer converter calibration.
Roger.
Peony 2, perform Centaur LH2 SVV cycle test.
Roger.
That's all the communications between the launch team, basically all the steps that's needed to get us to T0.
Yes, less than 30 minutes. Less than 30 minutes left. So aboard the International Space Station, if the crew gets a minute, I do believe that they're beaming up this launch broadcast. So hi to my friends aboard the International Space Station. That they're going to watch the launch. They're very invested in this. They've been waiting for weeks, months for the Starliner to arrive, and we're good friends with the crew on board. So it's going to be very cordial. But yes, I remember watching.
L minus 29 minutes.
The shuttle's launch. And then when my friends landed on either the shuttle or on the Soyuz, we would try to watch the landing coverage too. So certainly we were always watching NASA TV.
And we did get a chance to talk to NASA astronauts Tracy Dyson and Jeanette Epps prior to launch.
Prop 1, LC.
Prop 1, go.
Are we complete?
RD-180 transducer converter calibration is complete, and the engine FIV is open.
Roger. Flight control, start flight control final prep.
Roger. LC, Peony 2.
Go ahead.
Centaur LH2 SVV cycle tests are complete.
Roger.
Again, Tracy Dyson, Jeanette Epps, two of the astronauts that are on the International Space Station already. We did get a chance to talk to them prior to launch.
Update complete.
And they
Roger.
said they are ready for Butch and Sunny to arrive. They've gotten their areas all set up for them, so they're really excited to welcome them just about 26 hours after liftoff today. Again, 27 minutes, 53 seconds and counting until liftoff of Butch and Sunny, the first two to fly Boeing Starliner capsule to the International Space Station. Let's go over now to Brandy and Jim inside Mission Control in Houston.
Thanks, Megan. Lead crew flight test flight director Mike Lammers is getting ready to poll the flight control team here in Houston for a go or no-go, verifying that all of Starliner systems are ready for launch. Everything is looking good at the moment, and Lamers will use this poll to determine his own response to the final go, no-go poll by the launch conductor just before liftoff.
Once we do get into the terminal countdown timeframe, there are a few major activities that the team will oversee. The first is Starliner's transition from ground power to battery power. That comes about 18 minutes before launch, and we leave it as late as possible so we can launch with those batteries as...
Go ahead. Arm hydraulic final preps are...
Roger.
minus 27 minutes.
We leave that power transition as late as possible so we can launch the batteries as close to full charge as possible. A few minutes later, with less than 10 minutes to go before liftoff, Starliner's ordnance will be armed. That activates the critical systems that are needed to detach all the things that Starliner would ultimately deploy or jettison as it climbs to orbit, or back for a landing if that became necessary. And then finally, just 1 minute and 15 seconds before launch, they'll work with the crew to activate the launch abort system, which would rocket the crew to safety in the case of an abort or on the pad early in the ascent.
This will likely be the last you hear from us until liftoff. So we are going to send you back to the team in Florida to let Megan, Dee, and Mike see us through the rest of the countdown. Go Starliner.
Now let's take a closer look at Starliner, the next generation crew capsule that you see atop the Atlas V rocket there on launch pad 41 on Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. Mike, Starliner is something, like you said, and Butch and Sunny, you guys really have your fingerprints all over that to make it the ride to space that you guys wanted.
Indeed, Starliner is definitely Ferguson even called it a astronaut or pilot spacecraft.
And so that next generation crew capsule, it measures 16.5 feet tall with a diameter of 15 feet. That's about the size of a mid-size SUV. It was designed to carry up to 7 astronauts or a mix of crew and cargo for missions to the International Space Station. After today's test flight, NASA will fly crews of 4 or 5 with cargo. Starliner is also reusable up to 10 times. I'm sure you're excited for your opportunity to fly in Starliner, Mike.
Oh, indeed. We're hopefully Butch and Sunny, along with Calypso, are going to pave the way. We'll be in the other spacecraft that Boeing has. We have 2 capsules, and so again, it's always good to have an extra one and a backup one, and we're looking forward to flying next year.
Let's head back over to Johnson now, where we have Rob Navius with an update for us. Rob.
Well, we'll leave it there for a little while. We're waiting for the go, no-go poll. I've been joined by Roger. How are you, Rog?
Oh, I'm fine. I'm a little bit tired because I was out till, well, I got back about 3 o'clock this morning because I was doing some Milky Way shots of which is in the background.
Oh, yes, you did say about
I
your
went to
secret.
Avebury and it did clear and it turned out amazing, although it did start to get a bit misty and it was looking rather moody, but got some awesome pictures and I was really pleased.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Sorry, I've just messed up the feed a bit. I'm just popping back.
Yay.
So yeah, we're back. We're back. Don't panic, everybody. Don't panic, everybody. I managed to get it back. Yeah. So yeah, you did say you were going on a secret mission. Doom, 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 lurking around the stones in the dark. So
Yes.
yeah, it it's taken me right back there. Why has it done that? There we go.
Right.
All right. So yeah, it's, yeah. So hope you're looking forward to this, and hopefully we will get it all up and running successfully. This is the 3rd time of asking within what was it, 3 in a month?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, so they should have this down to pat now. Everything's gone smoothly so far. We haven't even had any niggly moments at all, which we did have on the last test. Of course, this is very important. This is part of the crewed missions, which NASA require. Well, they put out tenders back in, when was it? 2011. No, it was 2011 was when they shut down the space shuttle. But it was it was
2015 was
2014.
it? 14.
2014, yeah, when
Yeah,
they
10 years.
selected both Boeing and SpaceX to basically build the next taxis to the International Space Station, to build crewed um, uh, capsules that can take crew to and from the International Space Station. They're both designed to carry up to 7 people, but also SpaceX have their own version of a cargo Dragon as well, which will take all the cargo required by the International Space Station crew to keep them in good fettle up there. Butch and Sunny will be they're strapped into the capsule now. The pad crew have departed, so they're just sat out on the crew. We're about 20 minutes away from launch, fingers crossed. What we'll do is about 5 to, we will pop over and we will have a listen. And we'll be quiet for the actual launch, and then we'll come back and have a bit of a chat a little bit later on. Again, thank you everyone for joining us. It's lovely to see you all. Sandra's busy cleaning apparently while she's watching us, so that's that's good to know. Keep him busy. Helps fight off the nerves, I suppose. But of course, this is the test flight, which will give the Starliner its certification to be able to take crew backwards and forwards from the International Space Station. And of course, we've already got the Space Dragon, which has been doing it since 2020. This, unfortunately, the Starliner has been dogged by nightmare after nightmare of problems, mechanical, and now, of course, unfortunately, the last couple of missions have been scrubbed due to ground control issues, plus also a leak. But these were on the launch systems rather than actually the Starliner. So, what do you reckon we'll get this off today, Rog?
Well, 50-50.
Hedging your bets, are you?
Hedging my bets, yeah. I was just thinking, because it can hold quite a good capacity of occupants in there, I suppose they could do an emergency full recovery if they launch it automatically up to the ISS.
Yeah, as long as there's no more than 7, unless somebody wants to sit on the floor. But yeah, it's I think this is the thinking behind it, that if it is needed, or if there, while it's up there, there is an issue, they could fit all 7 in there, as long as the seats are fitted. And of course, they're not fitted on this mission because, as I said, Sunny and Butch are taking quite a bit of equipment themselves with them. And in fact, one of the things an emergency, the thing that's got to be taken up is a urine filter, so that the crew's urine can be turned back into drinking water because the other ones fail. And unfortunately, because it's extra weight, they had to take some of the crew's Butch and I was going to say Sundance and Sunny uh, personal luggage off. So they'll be using the generic toothpastes and toothbrushes and soaps or whatever, wipes or whatever they use, actually on the space station. But they won't suffer. They'll still have some luxuries up there. Of course, when they get up there, there's already 2 crews up there, and what they will do, because you've got the Russians and the USA. But what they will do is, while they're actually staying there, I think it's scheduled for 8 days, or up to 2 weeks at the most. I think the actual whole mission is 2 weeks, but if they need to stay up there a little bit longer, then they can do. So it's a watch and see. While they're up there, they will be helping the the space station crew with their chores and things like that, but the actual Starliner will be thoroughly checked through to make sure it's safe to return. So it's a watch this space scenario. So yeah, I mean, hopefully this is all going to go without any problems. It's the third flight of the Starliner. The first one was a near disaster, but they managed to recover it. And then after, I think they had to do something like 80 fixes to make it safe. They then flew another crewless test flight up to the International Space Station. It did a bit better. There were a few little issues. One of them was with the docking ring, but they managed to work their way around that, and it was successfully docked. And then it returned to Earth safely. Of course, this lands. This actually comes back and lands on land. We're used to seeing NASA missions splash down. But this actually lands somewhere in South America. It's at the White Sands Missile Range in New Mexico. And the idea of this is supposed to be removable. So reusable, reusable.
Yeah.
And of course, returning to land, it will actually be able to be a quicker turnaround for them. And hi, Andy, it was nice to see you. Can you hear me, Andy? You're mute.
Mute. Daz, we've got a static image of the feed at the moment.
What? Right. Okay, then.
Have you? You might have paused it accidentally.
Let's have a look. It could have been. Yeah, it might have been disrupted. Let's make sure we're up to date. There we go.
Yep, that's more like it.
It's all back. Yep. Yeah, I think it's got disrupted when Andy popped in. We'll blame him. Yeah, we'll blame Andy. Yeah. Right. We can't hear you, Andy. We got no sound.
That's a blessing.
So it's nice to see you, Andy. Thanks for joining us. We'll wave at you because we can't. We'll have to do sign language. So yeah. So anyway, everything's progressing nicely. We will soon be popping over. We'll turn off our mics, and then what we'll do is we'll go to listen to the NASA stream, and let's see this thing actually get off. We are now. Where are we? We're 13 minutes away. So it's getting a little bit exciting, getting a few butterflies. We will be, as I said, we'll go silent for about 5 minutes and we'll listen to the final messages that are passed backwards and forwards. And then we'll come back once this thing is launched, fingers crossed, and we will actually be able to come back and we'll have a quick chat and assess what's going on. Of course, this is also a big day for ULA. They've had problems in the last few months or so. So they're desperate to get this off as well. So it all round, everybody needs this to be a success, and we want it to be a success. We need a second launch vehicle, and also the Starliner is also got enough thrust that it can actually push the International Space Station back up into a higher orbit. And if we want the space station to continue till 2030, then we need to push it back up. So yes, this is they're actually showing now this SpaceX Dragon with the first crewed flight that they performed back in 2020, and of course that was in the beginning of the COVID. If you remember, we all watched that, all locked down, and yeah, it's exciting times. So fingers crossed that everything goes well, and we will get this thing launched once and for all. But we want everything to go safely. We really do. We
Absolutely.
really do. So we will all be fingers crossed. So sorry, I'm just adjusting another. I've got two screens going here. So I'm just adjusting the screen on another unit. Yeah. So what we'll do is how far we got? We've got 11 minutes. 11 minutes. So yeah, I think we've possibly missed the no-go poll. I love that because that takes me back to the Apollo years. So let's see if we can get Andy on. I see he's muted. Let's see. Hi, Andy. Are you there? Can you hear me, Mother? No, it looks like he's frozen or something. So either that or he's turned into a mannequin. So I'll just mute him again just in case that comes back on. So yes, we are proceeding on. Everything's going well. On the screen, we've got 10 minutes 51, and we're counting. So any last words, Rog?
Well, I'm just hoping third time will prove to be the one and 100% launch, really. And then everything else to go as smoothly as possible. All the arm is retracting now, so that's another good
Yeah,
sign.
I was just going to say, I'm surprised the arm's still there. And just as I was about to say it, well, I'm glad I didn't. Yes, it started to move away now. So that means everything's proceeding nicely. The access arm is retracting. Obviously, all systems are go at the moment. And I think what we'll do is, where are we now? We're 10 minutes away. We'll just give it a few more minutes, then we'll go to the live stream and we'll watch the whole thing build up and listen to NASA do their final checks, and watch the launch, which of course is going to be totally successful. It's gonna fly.
Right.
So microphone. So you're unmuted, Andy. You okay? Can we hear you? Testing, Andy. Are you there? No, we'll have to go back. So what we'll do is we'll pop over now. We'll listen to NASA and we'll watch the final the final countdown. That's a song, isn't it? And we'll come back after the successful launch, because this is all going to go well. Because the next date for this is tomorrow, and of course tomorrow we have the Starship launch, the fourth test launch of the Starship. So we can't cover them both, depending on times. But yeah, fingers crossed. So if everyone's ready, what I'll do is I'll bring the sound back on with NASA. Oh, hang on a minute. No, I've just got to come back up here. Release the sound. Right, everything's quiet. So.
And we will be able to watch cameras on the rocket today, and live telemetry feeding back will provide a real-time look at the spacecraft model when video isn't possible during the ascent as it moves through the dynamic phases.
There's a nice bit of venting going on there.
All topped up pretty much.
Yeah. But of course, we've got so close before. It was, what was it, 3 minutes 50
3 minutes
seconds?
50. 3 minutes 50, yeah.
So fingers crossed. And
under 8 minutes before Butch and Sunny head back to a place they consider home. Both of them have spent 2 different stints of about 6 months on the International Space Station, and they are thrilled to be going back for a 3rd time. Sunny told me she even cried the last time she left the space station because she didn't know if she would ever go back. So this flight is a dream for her.
LC arm control.
Go ahead.
Crew access arms stowed for launch.
Roger. LC switch to ready position.
Good.
Yeah.
All steps are complete prior to status check.
Right, I think it's almost time for us to go full
Let's
screen.
listen in to
And
Chief Launch Conductor Doug Lebo conduct that final terminal count status check as we prepare for launch.
Ooh, is that the go sequence then?
I hope so, because I love
Check
it.
to proceed with terminal count. Atlas systems, propulsion,
Go.
hydraulics,
Go.
pneumatics,
Go.
LO2,
Go.
water,
Go.
Centaur systems, propulsion,
Go.
pneumatics,
Go.
LO2,
Go.
LH2,
Go.
has gas,
Go.
electrical systems, airborne,
Go.
ground,
Go.
facility,
Go.
RFFES,
Go.
flight control,
Go.
GCQ,
Go.
op support,
Go.
comm,
Go.
umbilicals,
Go.
arm control,
Go.
ECS,
Go.
redline monitor,
Go.
quality,
Go.
op safety manager,
Go.
ULA safety officer,
Go.
vehicle system engineer,
Go.
anomaly chief,
Go.
range coordinator,
Clear to proceed.
flight director,
Houston flight is go.
Starliner,
Starliner, go.
launch director,
You have permission to launch.
proceeding with the count.
Space
Variable
Oddities,
count.
go.
Verify T0
Yes.
set for 14,
Definitely
52,
go.
15, Zulu.
Verified.
Starliner, net is clear.
Thank you, LC. For everybody listening, just a thought. Sonny and I, as we were traveling to the pad, we saw many American flags, and many of you were waving flags at us. And then as we reached the pad, we look up, and of course there's that American flag on the side of the white room, also one on the side of the rocket itself. And we know that that represents unity and resilience and unified efforts for the common good. And that's what Sonny and I have witnessed this last month. Each of you displaying what this nation's forefathers envisioned, a people committed to God, family, and country, a people who use their gifts and talents for the common good, and are passionate and tough. And we all know that when the going gets tough, and it often does, the tough get going. And you have. And Sonny and I are honored to share this dream of spaceflight with each and every one of you. So with that, LC, let's get going. Now let's put some fire in this rocket, and let's push it to the heavens where all these tough Americans have prepared it to be.
Let's go, Calypso. Take us to space and back.
LC flight, Starliner configured for terminal count.
On my mark,
Roger.
the time will be T-minus 4 minutes and counting. 3, 2, 1, mark. 3:55.
Clocks have resumed for
Ground
on-time
power is enabled.
liftoff.
Just beautiful words from Butch there. No better example of unity on this planet than what happens at the International Space Station, where Butch and Sonny are headed in just 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
3:30.
Atlas hydraulics at flight fresh.
Atlas boosters hydraulic steering systems now pressurized for launch.
Looking very good.
Yep. No further than last time.
Starliner's LAS prop valves
So
are
far.
configured for launch. The propulsion valves that
Oh,
need to be
really?
open in the case of an abort from the pad.
3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Pressurizing Atlas tanks. Securing LO2 topping.
250. FTS internal.
Flight software is in ascent mode. It is now set for the uphill climb.
Getting a bit butterflies.
Yes. Well, at least they've both experienced a launch before.
Yeah.
So they know what it's going to feel like getting pushed off that launch pad.
Vehicle internal. 155. Launch sequencer start. 150.
Securing Centaur LH2.
Securing Centaur LO2.
Vehicle is now transferred to its onboard batteries, and topping is
140.
completed.
Launch enabled. 137. FTS armed. $120. OCU's armed. SCS count started. EDS ascent. Starliner last arm to auto. Last arm auto.
No.
Yeah, can hear you, Andy.
That call meaning if the emergency
Good.
detection system on
I can't
Atlas
see you,
detects
but I
something.
can,
Rock report range status.
I can see the screen.
54.
Yeah.
POV started.
Here we go.
Yeah. Well into the hard
Trigger the
cake
launch
now.
abort system on Starliner and fire automatically. If that happened, the spacecraft would push itself away from the rocket a mile up and a mile out.
Atlas at flight pressure.
Why is that countdown going up?
Oh, that's our timer.
Oh, that's right. Okay, fine.
We're not an hour away from launch.
Oh, thank goodness.
Godspeed, Butch and
Right.
Right, here we
Get
go.
ready. Last 15 seconds. Go, go, go.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition.
Yes.
And
Here we go.
liftoff of Starliner and
Wow.
Atlas 5, carrying 2
Oh, that's
American
not hanging
heroes,
about.
drawing a line
Nope.
to the stars for all of us.
Indeed.
He's out of there.
My goodness.
Commander Butch Wilmore there, calling down to Mission Control here in Houston that the spacecraft has begun rolling into the right attitude for its ascent, and the guidance, navigation, and control officer here in the room seeing good data on that.
Oh, I thought they said they weren't going to fly it through cloud. It looks like they are.
Wow.
That's not too bad. Here comes the sound. Oh, look at it.
Starliner passing through max Q, or the point of maximum dynamic pressure where the forces of air friction are highest, which in Sunny will shortly be passing through Mach 1, where the speed of sound.
Yeah, they said the crew will experience 3G on the takeoff.
All right.
So, they're used to
nice
it.
view.
Lovely, isn't it? That's what we've been waiting
Beautiful.
for. That view.
Well, I bet there'll be a lot of relief going on down in main control room.
Yeah.
Got a good throttle up.
Starliner and Atlas
Suppose it'll
looking
be.
good with speeds and attitude increasing as expected. Coming up in less than 20 seconds, the solid rocket boosters will run out of fuel and burn out.
Oh, that's why it got out of there. Their solid rocket, solid fuel boosters.
Good SRB burnout.
Let's hope for a good separation.
Yep.
Look at
Now
that.
the fuel in the solid rocket boosters has been depleted. The
Beautiful.
Atlas main booster stage will be continuing its burn for about the next 3 minutes.
Look at that ice on the inside.
Yeah.
Good handle.
That call, good handle from Capcom Joshua Kutrick, indicating that the crew now has the ability to initiate an abort manually if needed. All looking good so far. Now 2 minutes into Starliner's flight and coming up on the solid rocket booster jettison at the 2 minute and 40-second mark.
Oh, boosters are gone.
There we go.
CLG in that good trajectory. CLG.
The solid rocket boosters have now been jettisoned after seeing Starliner through its first 90 seconds of flight. Team on the ground here confirming that it was a good jettison and the vehicle's trajectory continues to look good. Now 3 minutes into today's flight.
The Atlas V engine still burning nicely.
See the coast.
Yeah. It's a lovely view, isn't it? And look at the curvature of the Earth, you flat earthers.
Oh.
Deny it now.
Oh, it's the wide-angle lens that makes it distorted.
Of course, of course.
No, you're wrong. That's the edge of the disc.
Atlas booster
That's
now throttling back to limit the G-forces on Butch and Sunny.
It's the edge of the disc. Don't start, Andy.
Just playing devil's advocate.
Yeah. Well, if it was, it'd be covered in ice, because isn't it an ice wall supposed to be surrounding the Earth?
Yeah, that's in the foreground. Look.
All right, okay, then we'll leave it there before everything erupts. But yeah, that was a lovely takeoff.
Perfect.
It looks like we've got through the first stage. Of course, the first stage will be separation. The Atlas stage will be Atlas 5 stage will be separating soon, and then we'll have Centaur ignition.
Oh.
So there goes the first stage.
Wow.
These engines have already been pre-chilled on the launch pad. So we want to see them ignite.
Well, that's not quite straight away.
No.
Take about 20-30 seconds before it launches.
Team on the ground reporting that they saw the ascent cover on top of Starliner that's been protecting the spacecraft's docking system through its climb into orbit. They saw that jettison as planned.
Yep.
Staging was good. You have good
control.
And now the second stage's 2 Centaur engines have ignited to continue pushing Starliner into space, fueled by liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. The next milestone that we'll be watching for is the aeroskirt jettison.
So the Centaur have ignited. Oh, we haven't got the. You can see them going.
Just see a bit of a glow.
Yeah, they're just beginning to glow. Of course, we're used to night flights, so we can see them. So
good booster performance. You're up to plus 31.
Plus 31.
Yeah, of course, the skirt that they're on about that has to be jettisoned is at the base of the actual capsule, which had to be added for aerodynamic purposes.
Impulse relative to its design baseline of around
doesn't need that now.
No, now it's up in reaching up into space. So I think we can say we've at the moment until the actual capsule leaves the Centaur and second stage. This is a successful launch so far. So things are looking good. And then, of course, once the Starliner is on its own, then that's when all the testing will start. And they will probably go through this with a fine-tooth comb, considering all the problems they've had in the past. And hopefully everything will be fantastic, hunky-dory. But it's still got a long way to go yet. So, well, I hope you all enjoyed that. So let me just come back to here so we can see ourselves.
Ooh.
Right.
Is that wise?
Yeah. Right. What do you think of that then?
Amazing. That was a rapid launch, wasn't it?
Good center.
It was.
As we said, it's got.
And don't forget, we've got the Starliner followed by the SpaceX Starship.
That's right. That's right. I think the Starliner actually docks with the ISS
Our upper
tomorrow.
stage remains in good condition and is
So we'll
performing
see what
well,
time that
positioning them
is,
into
and we
orbit.
might be able to pop on and watch that, depending upon the Starliner.
Yeah, because they've got about a day. They've got about a day before they dock up, haven't they? Almost.
Yeah, so it'll be tomorrow sometime, and of course we could be hopefully the Starship launch would have already been a success and everything was hunky dory on that, and then we can
Starliner's now
possibly
entering
watch
its first
the
guided abort
docking,
range.
depending
Starliner
upon
would direct itself
what's
towards
going
a
on, so
specific
that
location in the event
because
of
that's the
abort.
real
In
big
this case,
step
just
is
off the
it's
coast
docking, because
of
they did
St.
have a
John's,
slight problems
capital
with the
of the Canadian
docking ring
province of Newfoundland
on
and
the last test flight. But they were able to resolve them. It's a ring that actually extends out from the nose of the capsule, and it's got all the docking links on there. And then what happens is once it's locked out in situation, it retracts and pulls the capsule to the International Space Station. But what they had to do is they had a warning light, so they backed off of the space station, retracted the docking ring, and then extended it again, and everything worked perfectly with it that time. So fingers crossed that all that goes well. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed that. What do you think, Andy?
Fantastic. I'm so glad that they've got it off the ground and hopefully into orbit at long last. And we hope that our viewers can join us on Thursday for the IFT4 Starship launch.
That Starliner's ascent is ticking
Yeah.
along exactly as
Yeah,
expected.
really do. I'm just amazed that
remaining to
the
cut off is a
jet
major
that's
milestone,
actually taking
marking
these images
Starliner's
is
arrival
able to
on
keep
orbit.
up with it. So this is absolutely fantastic.
Very good.
Yeah,
Very good.
of course, it's an animation.
Still got
Yeah.
about
But
2
yeah,
1/2 minutes until we
we've
get
seen
to
a
that.
perfect launch.
With spacecraft
It's been a long time
continuing
coming.
to perform well and make its
We did
way
have our
towards
dates. I
orbit.
did especially. I thought, oh, if it one more time. And of course, if it didn't launch tomorrow, they would have been delayed for at least possibly 2 weeks because they'd have to change out the batteries. So
Yeah.
it's a good job they've got themselves all
With
off
the main
and
engine cut
running.
off, the next step will be
And
the launch vehicle
this is
separation.
one
That's
to
set
watch
occur
over the
just
next
short of
few
15
days,
minutes after
and
launch when
hopefully
Starliner will
everything will go
separate from the
well.
rocket and be
And
free in
we
space
look
for the first
forward
time.
to their safe return in possibly about 2 weeks' time. So, and of course, we said this is a land landing. That doesn't sound right, but it is a land landing. It will be parachuting into, as I said, the White Sands Missile Range in New Mexico. Something completely different from what we're used to with
Flight
NASA.
Dynamics officer reporting at this point,
Because
Starliner
usually we're
potentially
used to
making a
seeing
first landing on the
splashdowns in
coastal island.
the seas. But also, this is able to do both, actually. If there is a problem,
And
they
they're,
can
again,
actually
all continuing well, so
abort
they're
their
not expecting
landing
to date
and
abort.
land in the sea. But that'll have to be
So
all arranged.
let's
They've
talk.
probably got
support
contingency
regions only
plans.
available for just over 1 minute, where Starliner would just begin to move into orbit.
Let's talk about Thursday then. So liftoff of the Starship is due for about 1 o'clock UK time. The launch window lasts for 2 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, carry on.
Yep. Daz, are you and Roger available on Thursday?
I will be available tomorrow. Yeah,
I'm free. I'm free.
And hopefully,
I won't be, unfortunately, because I'll be working. But I will drop in. Well, it depends exactly when it launches. I won't be there for the beginning of the window. But if it's 2 p.m. UK time launch, I can be there for 2 p.m.
Arrival on orbit.
So we will wait and see what happens.
Harry's asked a question. I think it's how many number of orbits till dock. I honestly couldn't tell you.
No.
I'll be quite honest. I haven't looked into that side of it because we were just waiting for this to actually get launched. But it's
That's main engine cut-off just then.
Okay, then
Main
that's
engine
good.
cut-off.
Right,
Right.
that's good.
So we just got the separation of the last part there.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
separation, and then it's on its own, and then that's when it'll be tested to the nth degree by the crew.
And with that nominal MECO call,
and
that's
like
main
I
engine
said,
cut off.
they've had so many
We've got
problems
good
with
energy,
this. You
meaning
can
we have good
understand
velocity
they're
for
literally going to go
continuing
through
orbit,
this
and
with
a
a
good
fine
plane,
tooth
meaning
comb.
Starliner's trajectory is aligned with
And
the
they'll have to, if there are any
International
problems, they'll
Space
have
Station
to
for
resolve them on the
rendezvous.
fly. but hopefully there's going
And
to be
with
no
that, Butch
problems.
Wilmore and Sunny Williams return to
And as I
orbit
said,
and
I'm not
eventually be
sure
on
of how
board
many
a three-way
orbits it's going to be due. But yeah, we've our main engine cut off. So I hope it's supposed to tilt like that.
Yeah, I was going to say, falling.
Soviet astronauts with a combined total of 489 days in space. Starliner
Tomorrow
was the
then,
third space American launched
I suggest we go live at
space station. The space shuttle has
1
been
p.m.
Soyuz, and they're
UK
now well on their way to
at the
repeat the
beginning
journey
of
via
the launch
Starliner.
window, because obviously we won't be launching before that.
As pilot marks the first time that a woman has
How does
flown
that
on a
sound?
flight test of an orbital spacecraft.
Well, what I'll probably do
Just a
if
few
we do
seconds
it
ago, you heard
7:45,
Joshua Kutrick
because
to
knowing
Patrick
that SpaceX, they'll probably have the thing fueled and everything.
With the expected time,
So
Starliner will separate from
just in
Centaur
case they
at
do
about
decide to go, so
14
if we say
minutes,
7:45,
52
if that's
seconds into flight.
well, it's not
Just
7:45
under
to us, is it? It's
Well,
1:45.
1:45 there.
Or 1
Yeah.
now.
1:45 for us. We haven't got to get up early, so
No.
yeah.
That'd be
So,
good.
That is
so
actually
if
the
that's
last
okay,
major
Andy, if you
milestone
put
for
that up,
Starliner's ascent. All the hard work is
then
done,
that'll
but we need
be
for
great.
Starliner to be
Then we'll
flying on
clock
its own
on.
before
We'll
it can
do
begin
all this
heading towards the
again.
International
Sandra says
Space
she hopes
Station.
she'll be
There's
able
a
to
slight
tune
pause
in.
in the action here while
Thank you,
Centaur
everybody, for joining
repressurizes
us.
and does some attitude control.
There was more than I thought
We'll
it
get
was.
into the right
We were
orientation
going to
since
get because
Centaur
it's
on
a
its way
school
and
day.
we jettison it and move
Yeah,
into the right
absolutely.
orientation for the orbital insertion burn,
who was it?
which will come about 31 minutes
There
to
was
flight.
somebody who's actually watching it in the pub. The lucky devil. So yeah, I hope you're enjoying a Swift Point and you're celebrating this successful launch. So
Thank you.
anything else to say, lads? And then we'll
Cabin temp Starliner.
wrap this up.
I'm going to go because the connection's breaking up. So thanks to our viewers for being with us, and we hope to see you for the Starship launch tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks
So
for
bye-bye
joining us,
from
Andy. I'm glad you got in. Yeah. Glad you
See
got
you,
in.
Andy.
Take care, mate. Ta-da.
Right, so we should
And
see very
10
shortly
seconds
the
until expected launch vehicle separation.
ejection of the last stage there.
Yeah, hopefully. And that will all be.
And then the rockets will.
There they go.
There we go. Yay.
So they're on their own now.
Yep.
So yeah, of course, all the unfortunately all the Atlas stuff and the Centaur are all expendable. And this is something that really does need to be worked on. Because it makes space flight so expensive, whereas SpaceX
and now Starliner
can do it for
separated from
probably a
Centaur
fraction of the
stage. We have a
price.
big thank you to our ULA.
So
providing
yeah,
Bush's
well
7A
done
smooth
and
ride
congratulations
to space.
ULA and Boeing. We're glad to see
That is
you're
not the end of
actually
today's
safely in
orbit activity,
space,
though. The team will now be getting ready for the
we just
orbital
hope everything
insertion burn, which
proceeds
comes
nicely
31
and you get a
minutes after
safe
flight. So
docking and a
that's still
safe
about 15
return
minutes
home.
away now.
And hopefully we will jump on and if we can and
Sunny Williams
watch
and
the
Butch
docking
Wilmore will
and the
be
landing.
getting their
So
tablets out, doing a few
well
other
done,
activities to
everybody.
get
Any final thoughts,
Starliner
Rog?
ready for that.
No, I'm
And
just
that
so happy that
will be one of
everything's
the,
going to
It will be
plan.
the first
And
in a
in about
series
another
of burns that will
15
set
minutes, it will
Starliner
be
on its way to
burning
the
its
International Space
rockets just to
Station.
get into the right orbit for docking tomorrow.
Yeah, when it gets it's already, you can see it's already using thrusters to adjust its
just getting ready.
attitude, and I mean it's had a bad attitude up until now, so let's hope it's going to behave itself. So, okay then.
Yeah.
Well, thank
All
you
right.
again, everybody. Kev, Alan, Harry, Sandra, and everybody else. Gerard, thank you for joining us, and everybody else. We've seen a successful
again,
launch. We're all
Starliner with
happy, and
astronauts
hopefully
Butch
we will see
Wilmore
you
and Sunny
tomorrow
Williams
for
on board, launched from
Starliner
Crowville
launch. So
An even bigger
Cape
launch.
Canaveral
yeah,
Space
an
Force
even bigger
Station,
launch.
Launch Pad
So
41 at
everybody from us, have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow then. So bye for now.
See you lunchtime.